Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about an iconic distortion pedal and a pedal that I'd be willing to hazard a bet on being one of the most popular pedals of all time. I am of course talking about the Boss DS-1 Distortion. Now I'm sure the vast majority of you will be familiar with this pedal and probably have owned one or definitely know someone who's owned one at one point. I feel like it's a pretty common go-to for a first pedal for a lot of players, especially in the rock and metal world anyway. For me, when I think of this pedal, the first player that comes to mind is Kurt Cobain, but it's also been used by the likes of John Frusciante, Dave Grohl, Chuck Schuldiner, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and countless others. I mean, if you look up the notable players for this pedal, the list just goes on and on and on, and it's been used by almost everyone since its release back in 1978. This of course being one of the first Boss compact pedals released. And if you want to know more about the history of Boss's pedals, then you can click up here to check out my history of Boss pedals video after this. So let's get into the pedal. Now, like a lot of Boss pedals, it's pretty straightforward. You've just got your standard 3-knob configuration. Now maybe it's because it was an early design, but to me the control layout is slightly unusual, just being that you have the level control on the smaller central knob, which is normally where I'd expect to see the tone control, but maybe that's just me being a bit pedantic. So from left to right you've got tone, like I then said, in the middle you've got level, and then you've got your distortion control on the right. So very straightforward. So let's check out some tones. In the intro you heard me playing my Gibson SG Standard, however I've now got my Fender Custom Telecaster just to show you what some single coil tones sound like as well. So my cleanish tone going straight into the amp, which is a Marshall Studio Vintage, so a 20 watt plexi. It sounds like this. So it's already got a bit of grit to it, a bit of breakup, because that's how I like to run my distortion pedals. And then with the pedal engaged, it sounds like this. So that's with the tone and the distortion both at 12 o'clock, and then the level somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock, which is just where I find that it works best with this particular amp. So let's get a little bit deeper into this, and let's first talk about the tone control, because I think that's really the main talking point on this pedal and the debate online as to whether it sounds any good or not. Now the common consensus when you look it up online seems to be that you don't really want to take the tone past 12 o'clock, and I'd be kind of inclined to agree with that. So with the tone all the way down, it sounds something like this. So you really lose a lot of that top end and it becomes quite dull. With the tone all the way up, it sounds like this. So then you really lose all of the body out of it and it becomes really harsh and fizzy. If I now play a chord and sweep the tone from high to low, you should hear the range effects and you should be able to hear the sort of body come back into it, if you get what I mean. So as you can hear, with the tone all the way up, you really do lose almost all of the low end. For me, I find that the sweet spot is sort of pointing at the corner of the pedal, so again, 10 or 11 o'clock-ish. So I'm going to leave it there for the rest of the video, and we'll move on to talking about the distortion. Now I think what you expect from this pedal is like you've heard so far, with quite a lot of distortion dialed in. But I find that actually you can also get quite a good cleaner sort of edge of breakup sort of tone out of this pedal. Now if you turn the distortion all the way down, it doesn't actually go all the way off, so you still get a bit of distortion. So without the pedal on, it sounds like this. And then putting the pedal again in, but with the distortion all the way down. So you still do get a fair bit more distortion. But I find that if I switch to the neck pickup for sort of funky or sort of more bluesy things, it's a really cool sound. So I'll switch back to the bridge pickup and I'll bump the distortion now up to about 9 o'clock. And that sounds something like this. So you get quite a lot of distortion coming in quite quickly from not a lot of movement on that part. Moving it up to 12 o'clock and it sounds like this. And then further up to 3 o'clock sounds like this. And then with the distortion fully up, it sounds like this. So as you can hear, there's a really good amount of distortion in this pedal. I find though that even with the distortion fully maxed out like that, really it is still staying firmly in distortion territory when you compare it to something like a Rat or some sort of other higher distortion pedal, which when you max them out really start to almost get into fuzz territory. You do get a little bit of that with this pedal, but really it's still very firmly in the distortion camp and you don't really get into that really hard clipping. But that's a look at the DS-1. I don't think there's really a lot more to say about this pedal. It's been used by so many people that you're bound to be familiar with the sound, and there's not really a whole lot going on. It's a pretty straightforward pedal. I find that in comparison to some other distortion pedals, it is a bit more temperamental to dial in, but when you do get it dialed in right, you can get some really good tones out of this pedal. Leave me your thoughts and experience with this pedal down in the comments, because I'm sure a lot of you watching this will have had a play with one of these at some point. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.